There is something inside you that has been making decisions long before you ever felt them. It shapes your fears, dictates your impulses, and chooses your reactions in the shadows. And unless you confront it, you will spend your life obeying a master you never agreed to serve. By the end of this video, you'll know how to break its hold. By the end of this video, you will possess a 7-day protocol forged in the fires of ancient Stoic practice to perform a complete system reset on your mind. You will learn to move from being a spectator of philosophy to an operator of your own psyche. Pause your breath for one heartbeat and notice the exact thought that rushes in to fill the silence. That thought is your untrained mind revealing itself. The thesis is simple. Stoicism only transforms you when it becomes a system, not an idea. Philosophy unused is architecture without inhabitants, beautiful but empty. Here's the path we'll follow. 1. The invisible mechanism, why your mind resists Stoic practice even when you believe in it. 2. The consequence cascade, how that resistance shapes your psychology, your behavior, and your existential trajectory. 3. The practical framework, a 7-day protocol that rewires perception, will, and identity through applied Stoic discipline. There is a silent engine inside the human mind, an ancient machinery designed for survival, not sovereignty. It reacts before you choose, interprets before you reflect, and constructs meaning before you've even asked for it. This machinery is older than philosophy, older than civilization, older than your name. And despite everything you've learned, it remains the true author of your day. Stoicism tries to rewrite this authorship, but the mind does not surrender its throne easily. The ancient Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself as if addressing a rebellious soldier. Epictetus spoke of the mind as a wild animal requiring training, not admiration. Seneca warned that without daily discipline, your life becomes a ship steered by the winds of accident. They were not being poetic, they were being literal. Because the psychological roots of your suffering are not philosophical errors. They are automatic patterns running beneath conscious awareness, tiny reflexes of interpretation, micro-judgments, emotional algorithms inherited from ancestors who survived not through wisdom, but through vigilance. The invisible mechanism operates like a watchtower guard who never sleeps, constantly scanning for discomfort, uncertainty, or loss, and labeling each as danger. This is why good intentions collapse. This is why you know Stoicism but fail to practice Stoicism. Your philosophy is modern, your reflexes are prehistoric. Imagine waking before dawn. Your room is dim, silent, ordinary. But your mind immediately fills the emptiness with predictions. The argument you might have today, the task you might fail, the message you dread answering. Before your feet touch the floor, your internal guard has already armed itself. This is the invisible mechanism at work, a sentry who would rather imprison you with worry than risk exposure to uncertainty. The Stoics saw this mechanism clearly. They understood that suffering is not created by events, but by the reflexive commentary your mind overlays onto them. You do not fear the world, you fear the story your mind writes about the world before you have a chance to intervene. To live without examining this mechanism is to be commanded by a ghost wearing your face. There is a myth, older than written history, of a creature that drags its own shadow behind it. The shadow grows each time the creature avoids a challenge, until one day it becomes so large it walks before the creature, leading it blindly into darkness. This is what happens when the invisible mechanism remains unchallenged. Your shadow of avoidance becomes the navigator of your life. The Stoic Reset begins with exposing this machinery, catching the reflex in the instant it initiates its narrative, before interpretation hardens into truth, before emotion calcifies into inevitability. But to reveal the mechanism is not enough. Left unchecked, it shapes the architecture of your entire existence, and that is where we now turn, into the cascading consequences of an ungoverned mind. When the invisible mechanism rules unchecked, your inner world becomes a hall of distorted mirrors. Every reflection looks like you, yet each one is warped by interpretations you never consciously chose. The first psychological consequence is subtle. You begin to mistake your reactions for reality. An intrusive thought appears, and you call it truth. A surge of discomfort arises, and you call it danger. A moment of uncertainty shows up, and you call it failure. The mind becomes a puppeteer whose strings are invisible because they were woven into you long before you learned to name them. Here is the uncomfortable insight. Your suffering isn't loud, it's precise. It targets the exact places where you refuse to confront the mechanism itself. This creates a mental landscape where anticipation becomes anxiety and possibility becomes threat. Vignette. A woman sits at a cafe waiting for someone who is late. 6 minutes pass, then 7. Nothing dramatic occurs, no catastrophe unfolds, yet her mind constructs a quiet storm. They must be avoiding me. I must have done something wrong. Something is fraying here. Nothing in the world changed, only the weight of her projections tightened around her chest. This is the psychological trap. The world is neutral, but the mind is noisy. The Stoics warn that the untrained mind becomes addicted to its own interpretations, and addiction always seeks reinforcement, which leads us to the next layer: behavioral consequences. When reactions harden into beliefs, the brain rewires itself around them. Neural pathways strengthen in the direction of fear, avoidance, and misinterpretation. The mechanism becomes not just a psychological reflex, but a physical architecture. From a neuroscientific perspective, your brain becomes efficient at the very patterns that diminish you. Fear circuits fire faster. Threat detection becomes hypersensitive. Comfort becomes a gravitational pull that distorts your choices. And here is the surprising truth. Your brain is not loyal to your potential. It is loyal to your habits. Whatever you repeat, your brain protects, even if what you repeat is quietly destroying you. Think of it as a tightening maze. Each day you walk the same corridor and the walls inch closer, reshaping themselves around your predictable steps. Vignette. A man wakes with the intention to start his day with reflection, but the moment the phone lights up, his hand moves before his intention does. Neural circuitry older than his resolve takes control. Within seconds, his morning becomes a cascade of stimuli. Dopamine drips, notifications, micro-stress spikes, and he hasn't even remembered his own name in the silence. By noon, he wonders why he feels disoriented, but the maze has simply tightened around him. This is the behavioral cascade. What you do once becomes easier to repeat. What you repeat becomes your default. What becomes your default becomes your identity, and identity has consequences far beyond behavior. Here lies the deepest fracture. When the mechanism governs your mind, your life is no longer chosen. It is inherited from your reflexes. You begin to confuse busyness for purpose, routine for direction, comfort for meaning. Days become loops, years become echoes. You wake inside a life that feels familiar but strangely uninhabited. The existential cost is quiet but devastating. You stop becoming. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, like a flame collapsing into ember. And the metaphor that captures this is simple. A ship anchored in shallow waters, believing the tide itself is a destination. Vignette. An aging man sorts through a box of old journals. He reads pages filled with intentions, plans for who he would become, disciplines he would adopt, virtues he would embody. But each entry ends the same way. I'll start when things settle. Things never settled. The journals became a mausoleum of unrealized versions of himself. He didn't fail. He simply drifted. And here is the existential cliffhanger, the one the Stoics spent their lives trying to illuminate. If you do not confront the invisible mechanism, you will mistake its inertia for fate. And the moment you call inertia fate, your freedom disappears. But there is a reversal, a philosophical pivot so sharp it can break the machinery's spell. And it begins now. Here is the reversal the Stoics built their entire lives upon. You are not the mechanism. You are the one who can witness it. The moment you see the machinery operating, the reflex, the judgment, the surge of fear, you are no longer inside it. You are observing it. And what is observed can be reshaped. This is the pivot the ancient philosophers considered the birth of inner freedom. Not triumph, not mastery, not immediate control, but awareness with distance, the ability to stand 1 inch outside the reflex and name it for what it is. Most people never experience this separation. They live as if thought and thinker are welded, as if emotion and identity are indistinguishable. But the Stoic shift is a fracture of the illusion, a clean break in the seamless wall of reactivity. Imagine a rope that has been wrapped around your torso since childhood. You never saw it. You assumed the pressure was part of your body. But one day, you notice a single fiber loosening. And for the first time, you realize the rope is not you. You realize you can cut it. And the moment that thought is born, the rope's power collapses. That is the Stoic awakening, the recognition that your automatic interpretations are not laws. They are habits, and habits can be dismantled. The reversal is not comforting. It is demanding. Because once you see the machinery, you can no longer blame the world for its movements. You must become the engineer of your inner architecture. But this is also the liberation. If the mechanism was built unconsciously, it can be rebuilt deliberately. This is where thought becomes practice and philosophy becomes transformation. And the reconstruction begins with a protocol, a 7-day Stoic reset that rewires the mind from the inside out. Now we move from insight to instrument, from awakening to application. The purpose of this framework is not productivity, nor self-optimization, nor performance. Its purpose is reconstruction. A deliberate re-engineering of the inner architecture your reflexes built without your consent. This protocol is divided into 3 layers: internal practice, external practice, and integration practice. Each day of the reset blends all 3, forming a cycle of perception, action, and identity. Mindset reset happens when you do these transformative practices for 7 days straight. Let us begin. Practice for mindset. Fixing the internal world. This practice is the anchor. It restores your ability to witness the mechanism before it moves you. The Stoics called this prosos, the art of conscious attention. Each morning, before the world infiltrates your mind, ask a single question. What interpretation is already trying to claim me? Do not answer quickly. Hold the question like a lantern over the darkness. Feel the reflexes shifting beneath it, the anticipation, the quiet dread, the desire for ease, the subtle resistance. Naming the mechanism weakens it. You turn the unconscious into something illuminated, observed, and therefore alterable. To deepen this practice, perform a 60-second negative visualization, not to depress yourself, but to puncture illusion. Visualize a small but meaningful part of your life, a routine, a relationship, a privilege, and imagine its sudden disappearance. Let the image sharpen your attention to what is fragile, impermanent, and therefore precious. This is not pessimism, it is clarity. It is reminding the mind that everything you treat as permanent is a temporary gift. And gratitude, born from impermanence, is the most stable form of resilience. Repeat this internal practice each morning of the 7 days. It recalibrates your perception, turning noise into signal, fragility into awareness, awareness into command. Practice for behavior. A real-world challenge. The mind may awaken in reflection, but it transforms only through friction. Stoicism demands a daily encounter with voluntary discomfort, not as punishment, but as proof that the mechanism is no longer the architect of your choices. For the next 7 days, choose one small but deliberate act of difficulty each day. Not heroic, not performative, just difficult enough to confront the reflex that seeks comfort as if it were salvation. Examples: cold exposure for 30 seconds, feeling the instinct to escape, and not obeying it. A difficult conversation you've postponed, spoken with calm finality instead of avoidance. Working without stimulation, no music, no phone, letting your mind feel the raw texture of effort. The neuroscientific effect is simple yet profound. Each voluntary confrontation with discomfort rewires the brain away from avoidance pathways and toward agency pathways. You teach your nervous system that discomfort is survivable, which means fear loses jurisdiction over your choices. By day 3, you will notice something strange. The discomfort becomes less threatening, and your own capacity begins to reveal itself like bedrock beneath eroded sand. Behavior shapes identity, and voluntary discomfort is identity being forged. Practice for identity, a narrative, ritual. Without integration, change is temporary. With integration, change becomes identity. Each night of the 7-day reset, end with a single quiet ritual. Write one sentence that declares who you were, one sentence that declares who you refuse to be, and one sentence that declares who you are becoming. This is not affirmation. It is authorship. It aligns your inner witness, your daily actions, and your future narrative into one coherent direction. The Stoics understood that identity is not discovered. It is constructed through repeated, deliberate self-narration. Your nightly statement might look like, "Today I acted with clarity. I refuse to be governed by fear disguised as caution. I am becoming someone whose choices are born from intention, not impulse." This ritual rewrites the blueprint of self. When repeated for 7 days, it crystallizes into a new pattern, a pattern that the mechanism can no longer overwrite without your permission. The 7-day reset does not create a new life. It creates a new wielder of the life you already inhabit, a person who can see the machinery, challenge it, and rebuild it, one day at a time. In the past few minutes, you've uncovered the machinery beneath your thoughts, the cascade of consequences that shape your life without permission, and the Stoic reset that interrupts the reflex and restores the architect. You've learned that interpretation is the first battlefield, discomfort is the forge, and identity is the final sculpture shaped by daily intention. Now the decision stands before you. You either continue living inside the architecture built by your unconscious reflexes, or you begin the 7-day reconstruction of a mind reclaimed from its oldest machinery. This choice is not moral. It is existential. It defines the kind of being you are willing to become. If this protocol spoke to something true in you, if you felt the gap between knowing and being and you're ready to close it, then mark this moment. Hit like, not as approval, but as commitment, as a symbolic gesture that says, "I see the architecture I've been building unconsciously, and I'm ready to build deliberately." Subscribe if you understand that transformation isn't found in a single video, but in the systematic confrontation with ideas that refuse to let you remain comfortable. This channel is not entertainment, it is a place for reconstruction. Share this with someone who's been collecting philosophy instead of practicing it, not to fix them, but to offer them the same choice you're facing right now. And if you take the protocol seriously, if you complete the 7 days, leave a comment, not with your results, with what you discovered about the distance between your intellectual self and your embodied self. You have spent years fearing collapse, never realizing what you really needed was the collapse of who you were. Let what is false fall. What remains will be unbreakable. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more of such deep, thought-provoking content.